So today we are here with Armon. Armon is somebody who has managed to scale up an email appointment setting agency all the way to six figures. Just want to sit down, get pick his brain, get some knowledge from him, and just honestly learn. So how's it going, man?
Yeah, going good, bro. Alex is a great guy. I'm glad to be here with you, and I'm glad to share some knowledge and kind of have some discourse and yeah, get on
All
with it.
right. Well, first question. What's your story? How'd you get here? What was before all of this?
Yeah, so I mean, when I was, what was it, 16, 17, I started a marketing agency, right? Pretty typical. I was working with realtors, ecom brands. I mean, I moved throughout niches, right? As I'm sure a lot of people kind of realize when they're starting their, marketing agencies, like, they're going to try out some different niches, they're going to do different outreach, right? And initially, I was actually working with gyms. I was in high school. I was working with gyms and, it was going well. I signed my first client, within the first month. And then what happened was, and I'll break it down right now, right? So having a Middle Eastern family, right? If anybody has a Middle Eastern family, you guys are going to know that school is like huge, right? And it was like, I was getting some traction and my parents were like, yo, what are you doing, bro? Like, what is this? What is this agency stuff? What is this BS? Like, focus on school, this and that. So I kind of had to put things to the side. And then, COVID hit. So gyms were kind of out of the question. And from there, I started working with, I don't know if you know him, but Jared Curry. I started working with Jared Curry, running, kind of doing some setting for his ecom agency.
Yeah.
And I learned some things there. And from there, I actually started my own ecom agency and I closed two clients. And again, man, I was a senior in high school. And again, my parents came down on me and were like, listen, bro, you can't keep doing this. Like, stop doing this stuff. It's not going to get you anywhere. Don't listen to what they're telling you. You're filling your head with lies, blah, 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 whatever. So I stopped, focused on the SATs, whatever. Then I got to college. When I got to college, I was now working with real estate agents, right? Started another agency, and I was like, okay, this one's gonna be it, right? Boom, signed another client in the real estate niche, and I was like, making traction. And then, I lost a client, and I realized I would sign a client, and I would lose them pretty quickly, right? And I was like, well, what's the problem here, right? I realized my fulfillment was horrible, right? I realized I could sell, I could set appointments, but the fulfillment, I hated it, right? I hated thinking about it. And, I could have outsourced it, but instead I took a step back and I was like, hey, let me think about this business model. What do I like about it? What do I not like about it? Right. And I absolutely despise fulfillment. I hated having to deal with the client relations in terms of running the ads. But, I was really good at closing. I was really good at setting appointments. That wasn't really a problem for me, and it seemed like that was a huge problem for a lot of agency owners, right? That seemed to be the main bottleneck slash pain point. So I said, let me dive into it, right? I went and started working as a setter for a couple agencies. And then I started working as a setter for an outbound sales consulting agency, and they were working with marketing agencies, right? And I learned a lot there. I learned a lot about how to fulfill operations, systemizing things, and how to really, I knew how to book appointments, but now I learned how to do it on a large scale for clients and specifically marketing agencies,
Okay.
right? Yeah.
So within that, what the situation here is, you're somebody who's always able to get clients, right? You always had the ability to bring on new clients. And I know that's not unique. That's not a common problem, right? Usually it's flipped of, hey, I don't know how to get clients, but I can nerd out on service delivery and learn it. So what do you think, or was there any experience that you think played into you naturally being able to go out and get clients? Because a lot of people don't have that same skill set initially.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things at play when it goes into that. I mean, with that skill set, I think it's a natural thing, right? Where I'm good at sales. That's just a thing that comes to me. Whereas, and I think at the end of the day, a lot of people get discouraged when they don't see results coming in, when they're doing outbound, when they're doing outreach. But for me, it was just pretty simple in terms of numbers. Just get the numbers out and then be able to have conversations with people. And at the end of the day, on the sales call, I realized there was so many people trying to follow the script or, mirroring and pitch it three pillars like this and that. It's like, bro, at the end of the day, I learned as long as you just become friends with them on the sales call and you have a decent service, like that's how you really get the sale. That's how you really close clients, is when you're on that call, bro, just be human, be personable, and just really connect with the prospect. And that's really how you make the sale. As simple as it sounds, right? Throw
Yeah.
in my mind, right? Just throw all that, sales psychology, all that BS out the window and just become their friend on the call. And that's really where I found success. And then,
Yeah. Yeah, like 100%. I think the way that my business partner Dylan puts it is like, hey, if a prospect believed everything that you said, then there'd be no reason for them not to close in most case scenarios, right? The issue is that there's two sliders at play in sales, right? There is the emotional slider, and then there's the logical slider. What a lot of people do is they have a little logic, very little logic. Maybe they have a little case study of like, hey, I made this person two times, three times, whatever, but then they don't have any emotion built up, right? So even if they do trust them or they don't trust them, so they don't close them anyway, like liability, they don't end up closing. So that is super, super interesting. And in doing that, how did it turn into what you do now?
Yeah. So as I said, I learned a lot at that outbound consulting agency. I was like, I could do this for myself. So I took it out and I started, started working started signing on agency clients, and there it was even better, right? I could really connect with agency owners because I was one, right? And I knew the struggles, I knew the pains of trying to book appointments, and all they really wanted was to wake up, right, to a calendar full of appointments. And I targeted down, and obviously through trial and error, I lost clients, I performed bad for clients, but I figured out the best mechanism to do that, and the most profitable one, and that was cold email, right? So now that's what we started doing, and I pretty much transitioned all those skills into running this agency, into developing offers for our clients, into finding the best angles to cut through the saturation, find the best market resonance. So yeah, that's kind of really how I transitioned to what we're doing now.
Okay. So a lot of people still go through that same issue that you had where it's like, hey, how do I start and service this first client? What was the story of failure for those first clients where you didn't get them good results? And how did it play into what you do now where like you can get people good returns?
Yeah, I actually really like that question. So I mean, our first client, we were working with him, and it was like, again, I knew how to book appointments, but it was I'm not like an operations guy, right?
Yeah.
I'm a sales guy at the end of the day. And we started working with this client, and we were using a couple different methods. Not just cold email at the time. We were testing different things, DM setting, we would hire setters, put them in place. So it was a bit sporadic. And we were actually starting to book him appointments. But the problem was, like, I just didn't, they would no show, and I didn't have a follow-up sequence in place. And he was like, yo, what's going on? These prospects are booking, but they're not showing. And we ended up falling on our face there. And it was like, okay, well, we're technically getting appointments on the calendar, right? But they're not showing. And we didn't really have a CRM in place, right? As crazy as that sounds. And it was like nothing was really in place, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. And this is one thing that I'll tell everybody, right? Bro, my philosophy in business, right? Just jump off the cliff and build a parachute on the way down. Okay. As stupid as that sounds,
Yeah.
that's how you do it, or else they don't move, bro.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened with him. And it was like, well, now, and once we failed with him, right? Because it was like there was no real CRM in place where he could go in and check things. It was kind of like, yeah, word of mouth. Hey, oh, he would see it on his calendar, he pop
Yeah.
up.
It's the email confirmation.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
It's like new appointment update.
Yeah,
You have to
exactly.
look at like the little forms of like what they filled out for their budget and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and he'd be like, "Yo, like, can I see some conversations?" And I'd like text like the VA and said it. I was like, "Yo, send me some screenshots," and I'd screenshot those and text them to him like on his personal number. Like it was just so bad operationally.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's from there I learned that streamlining was extremely important and making the client's experience as smooth as possible.
Okay.
That's going to be that was probably the biggest thing I learned, and that was from that failure with that client, because obviously we ended up losing him because everything was just not put together. Funny story with that client, we had, again, as I said, we had things set up to book meetings. Booking meetings wasn't a problem for us. He hopped on. He was like, he responded back to an email, and he was like, hey, do you have 10 minutes, like, and hey, this interested me, do you have 10 minutes at 11 or something, like literally in like a 30-minute time frame. And I remember I had just woken up. Like I just woken up and I was like looking at it, I was like, oh, bro, what? And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah. I just shut him.
Yeah.
And
It's
then,
a weekend. It
what's up?
was like a weekend day or like
Yeah. It was like Saturday, I believe. Yeah. And I was like,
Saturday
just,
morning.
yeah, Saturday morning. And I was like, just waking up. And I was like, oh, yeah. And dude, to be honest with you, we didn't even have our pricing or anything like down yet, like in terms of what we wanted to do. And I got on the call with him. And right at the pitch, obviously, I was like, hey, any more questions? And he's like, yeah, obviously, investment, in my mind, I just came up with a number and just spat it at him, and ended up closing. Well, I actually came up with two options in my head, and then just kind of like guided him. What Alex talked about, like a phantom offer or whatever. And then I just kind of guided him towards a retainer one. But yeah, that's not to speak about what we do now, but back then it was a bit different, right? It was a bit
Yeah.
of
So how about we dive into what you do now? We'll just go over like everything you do now, because like this is a crazy system. I saw a little bit of it beforehand, but you're gonna be like thoroughly impressed with like how this whole system runs, how it's operationally. Then after that, we'll close it off with some questions about like how you would get somebody their first client, what to do if you're maybe your younger self or someone who's not in a position where you're at right now.
For sure, bro. Yeah, so I mean, going into a bit about what we do right now, first thing that we want to make sure a client has in place, right, is a bulletproof offer. And I'll actually pull up prospecting playbook is what we call it, that we develop for each of our clients. Here it is. And I will just share my screen real quick. So this is a prospecting playbook, right? What we call it. This is one of our clients actually, where we actually go through, we get pretty in depth, right? So after they sign, this is what we kind of sit down and go through with me and my head of operations. And we go through, overview, sales objectives, domains, ideal customer profiles, and their value proposition. So just a brief overview. As you can see, we go pretty in depth in terms of what we want to know about the client before we start an outbound campaign, because right when we want to do an outbound sales campaign, everybody mistakes it and just thinks you just throw volume and you just kind of just like a machine gun, right? You just rip and hope you get some responses back, but it's actually kind of opposite. Of course there's volume that's necessary, but you need to be targeted, right? You need to be personalized with how you're going at it and how you're attacking your ICP. So we need to fully understand the industry, geography, company size, decision makers, example targets to exclude, right? Because we want to really bring in the correct people, the correct prospects on the call. We don't want unqualified prospects either, right? So we go through all of this for our client, and then at the end, value proposition. This is probably the most important thing, right? And it's like we want to understand what are the client's deliverables, how can they deliver on them, in what time frame, and what are their capabilities, so we can generate a bulletproof offer, right? And a bulletproof value proposition. And we want it to ideally be unique, right, and help cut through the market saturation. So yeah, the first thing what we want to do with our clients, make sure they have a bulletproof offer. So when we go to do outbound, right, it's we're sending thousands of emails, or we're sending thousands of messages. We can't be adding volume to a leaky bucket, right?
Yeah.
Everything needs to be in place. Everything needs to be sound. So once we make sure they have a secure offer, right, then we move into the messaging and make sure that we are positioning the offer in the best way when it comes to an email. Right. So in an email, obviously you don't have a lot of opportunity to showcase, right, to build rapport, or to really showcase who you are.
Very logical.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like we just want to position it in the best way possible for a prospect to see it and be like, okay, yeah, I'm interested, right? And of course, we're going to use sales assets such as VSLs, YouTube videos to get that across. We actually build out VSLs and YouTube videos for our clients as well to help supplement the sales process. But yeah, from there, it's working on the messaging, right? So we're going to work on the messaging and make sure that it comes across the best way possible in email to their target audience. And then only when those two are fully solid and in place, that's when we add the volume, right? That's when we're sending, 1,000 plus 2,000 emails a day, and we're, packing out their calendar. So that is really the flow and how everything works with our clients now. I don't know if I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And also I'll show kind of how important it is for tracking, right? So this is kind of our own tracking sheet. This is for a setter that we just onboarded, so that's why it looks a little bit barren. But yeah, so tracking is extremely important. We'll build out a tracking sheet for all of our clients, and obviously, if they have a CRM that we integrate with. But this is kind of like I guess just to show a picture of how important tracking really is, because if you're not tracking every single metric, then you don't know where you're messing up and you don't know what you need to fix, right? So here we have this is for a DM setter that we have. He has 274 friend requests he sent. I think he started at the end of last week. This is how many responses that are positive, then his follow-ups, his link sent, total touch points, and then intros booked, right? So ideally, when you're sending campaigns across the board, you want to have at least a minimum of a 2% conversion rate. So if you're sending 100 messages, you want to be booking at least 2 meetings out of that, right? So the setter is doing close to 5, so that's pretty good so far. But yeah, so this is what we use to kind of look over every single channel, and even at the end we have revenue, cash collected, refunds even, right? So we really go deep into the tracking because, you know, I guess going back to my old self, right? We learned a good lesson with that old client where it's like we need to be tracking every single thing that we do. And yeah, and at the end of the day, they kind of give like a report end of day, so I can just quickly glance at it and look. But yeah, that's just a little bit of kind of the insights, a little bit of the inside of our agency and how tracking and how we develop ICPs for our clients.
Okay, and I promised the viewers that this is not a coincidence, but not even last week, I made a video where I talked about how I worked inside $100,000 a month agencies. And the key pillar that I took away from it was everything is tracked, right? Every single decision that is made is based on objective data. And I assume, yeah, you learned that from like the previous failures, but you also mentioned you worked as a setter, which is the same way that I came into these agencies and learned it. When you get to these high level agencies, people that are making a lot of money, you're going to realize that each and every single one of them comes in with the intention of making sure everything is covered, right? And decisions are only made based off of things that are properly qualified. They're extremely open to new ideas, but they have to have data. So be tracking your outreach. Last segment that we're going to go into is all about what you would give advice to for your younger self, we'll say, right? So the situation I gave was, let's say there's somebody without their first client, and what they're looking to do right now is the same way that you initially got your first clients, get those clients, and then go through those iteration loops to eventually go ahead and see success. How, in the most valuable way possible to get to 10K a month, do you think that somebody should go from absolutely nothing, no experience, and just young?
Yeah, got you. Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, I want to say, I know, and I say, you know, move fast and get things done and fail. But at the end of the day, like I think my younger self, I didn't really think about it, but it's like, bro, get some experience and get some kind of knowledge under your belt. So that, because bro, and it's like when you're on sales calls, prospects can really sniff out if you know what you're talking about, if you don't. So I would say, right, really try to learn a lot. And if that means, and I would tell my younger self, bro, get those sales jobs, right? Get a sales job, learn, right? Learn a little more. And if you're in the position, right, of when you're trying to get your first client, let's say you went through a course or you learn and you're pretty confident in everything that you have, I would say try and get some quick wins as fast as possible. Put together, I would say the best way to do it, right? Because in this day and age, if we're being honest, right, and if I'm going to give you a real answer, you need to have something to speak for yourself. You need to have something, right? Put together the bare minimum in terms of authority that you can, so it doesn't look like you're some completely fresh kid that's, you know, ripping DMs to some you know, local business or whatever it is, right? So I would say get together, you know, minimal viable product. So take what you're doing and just shorten it down, right? To a service that you can deliver in probably 30 minutes or an hour long. So maybe like a consulting call or something, and just start saying you'll do it for free. Like, hey, bro, I'll give you, you know, how the strategy that we're using to help home improvement companies book this many appointments through ads. I'll give you 3 sequences that we're using, 3 ad sets, right? Whatever you want, run them through like an hour-long call, but then say, hey, but all I want from you is a testimonial after it. Okay. And that way you can rack up testimonials, okay, pretty fast within a week.
Yeah, that's some real sauce. I want to go over that one more time because like that is some real sauce. Because I remember when I first started, I actually mentioned that I called it an MVO, right? Minimize viable offer.
Yeah.
If you get on these calls with these people and you attach a testimonial, not to a service they're going to give them, but the information of, hey, you know, I'm going to consult you with an outreach channel, outreach script, outreach everything. And then you say, hey, in return, I want a video testimonial. You can go through person after person after person. You're trying to sell each and every one of these people. It's kind of like walking into a casino, going up to a slot machine and having infinite plays at jackpot, right? Each and every time you have a higher % chance of winning because you get more and more testimonials, even if you don't close them. So very big nugget there. I want everyone, you don't have any testimonials, you don't have any case studies, look at that.
Yeah, 100%, bro. I think that's the best thing to do, because at the end of the day, a lot of people say, bro, just get out there and send messages and you don't need a web. Bro, at the end of the day, you do need something, especially now in this market, right? You're gonna need something to show for yourself. So get out there and get, make your, as Alex calls it, MVO, as I'm calling it, MVP, right? Make a minimal viable product and get it out there and just get some testimonials in. Once you have like 3 to 5 of those, you can get that within a week, right?
Yeah.
For sure, easy. And once you have that, bro, just start going hard, man. Just start getting your numbers out. Don't be lazy. Sometimes you might wait, I don't want to do outreach today, bro. Just get out there, do the numbers, and track every single thing that you do, right? Track all the numbers. I know in the beginning it's like, yeah, whatever. I did this many messages. I know I did. No, track it so you can see it like with your own eyes. How much you're converting, how much you're not. So then you can go in and really go into the weeds of where you're messing up. So I'd say get a minimal viable offer together, collect testimonials, maybe have a simple landing page, if that. And yeah, start tracking all your outreach. And when you're on that sales call, right? I know you're probably nervous, especially if it's like your first couple ones, my first sales call, my hands were sweating, right? It's like, don't be nervous, just talk to them, right? I don't even, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't use a script. Okay, like, I don't use a script. I'm not saying, don't go out there and don't use a script, but have a framework, right? But dude, a script a lot of times will just make you like robotic, right? Like,
Yeah.
how much revenue are you making? Like, oh, like, relax, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
relax, like, just have a conversation with the prospect. Find things you can relate with. If not, that's cool. Either just be yourself, be friends with them, understand their business, actually give value, right? What you would do, separate yourself from a service provider and come at them from a friend's perspective and like a coach. Give them value on the call, and then at the end, present your offer. And if it's something that they find valuable, you have those MVOs, those small testimonials you're showing them as well. And just present your offer. And if it's something they like, you have those testimonials to back, and it should be fine, but the biggest thing I will say is on that sales call, just be their friend and be cool, right? Don't try and be reading the script
Yeah.
blindly.
And there was another thing in there that I really think is important. It's a mistake that I made. When I first started, I went on these sales calls with the approach that if me and this person didn't, get born at the same hospital, didn't play the same sport growing up, there's no shot they would like me. Right.
Yeah.
So it would be trying to build that fake before trying to relate to them. And I learned about, damaging admissions, the 8 Mile effect. Right. Like I remember when I first got on one of my first calls, it's like, yeah, I don't have any cases. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I know I'm a little bit like antisocial. I've never done sales before, but I'm be the hardest working person. But I have these testimonials, but I have all these things. Because digging into yourself like that builds a level of trust that gives validity to what you're going to say later on in the future. So you don't have to be the same person as your prospect, right? It's better to be, I guess we can say, based in a different way. Just be who you are completely. You don't have to try and relate to them, but be truthful, right? And through doing that, and then through not being a robot and reading off your little script, you will have the ability to close more people. That is some like real big sauce there. There's 4 or 5 nuggets in there that you can immediately apply to your agency, get off the ground and see success. Go to work with Armand. Head over. Socials are linked in the description below. And I appreciate having you on.
Yeah, bro. I appreciate you having me, and everybody out there. Go out there and kill it, man. Jump off that cliff.